I am back. Just wanted to give you guys a quick update and sort of fill you in on stuff that's been going on with me. As some of you may know, I am a dungeon master for a local game store, and um, a little over a year ago, the store became a Darrington Press affiliate. We are a guild store. As such, I felt it was appropriate to run a Taldorei campaign based off of Critical Role's channel and all the stuff that they do. Just seemed like the thing to do. And as of last night, we finally wrapped things up. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about the campaign and what all went down without getting into too much of the nitty-gritty. So, the premise was this. It was set a number of years after the events of Campaign 2. Campaign 3 was kind of like going when I started this, so I didn't want to incorporate anything I didn't know about yet. Events are as follows. The party was receiving sort of invitations to escort someone to the city of Whitestone for the funeral of Percival DeRollo. No mercy Percy. It felt appropriate as he was human. He would probably be the one to die first. I do apologize if this ever gets to the crew and Taliesin Jaffe sees this. It's just the facts. I'm sorry. The party does eventually get to Whitestone, where they are going up the hill to the city proper when they hear a strange and mysterious noise, and they see a red tiefling woman astride a mechanical steed go jumping over their cart and wagon and go disappearing into the forest, only to be shortly chased by Whitestone guards. When they arrived at the city, they see Vexalia shouting orders at several of the guardsmen as the tiefling in question is, in fact, one of their children, their youngest, Gwendolyn DeRollo. She sees the party coming in and immediately can tell that they are adventurers and offers them a platinum piece each if they can retrieve her daughter in time for Percy's funeral. The party broke, agrees. They manage to track her down in the woods and everything, and they ask her what's going on, this, that, or the other, and Gwen tells them that the funeral is a farce, that her father was in perfect health and perfectly fine not too long ago, and that he wouldn't just croak out of the blue. She very much felt that something was up, and despite her best efforts, hadn't been able to convince the family of otherwise. So she was going to go off into the world and try and track down some answers. The party convinced her to come back, at least for the funeral, and they began doing some investigating of their own. They asked about Percy, how he was during his last couple of days, this, that, and the other, and a lot of people kind of agree that he seemed fine, just a bit on in years, and a lot of people were just, he just got old. But during the funeral, which was held underneath the sun tree and with all of Vox Machina and everything, they began to examine the body from afar. They didn't really notice anything, but they did notice some suspicious figures in the crowd waiting for an opportune moment to break away. And it was at that point that the great clock tower that Percy constructed blew up. And these seemingly cultists in robes started attacking people in the streets. Vox Machina sprang into action. The party split. going after Percy's body, which is being carried to the Dorolo crypt while the funeral was being wrapped up. Half the party stayed behind, helped Vox Machina fight off the cultists. Meanwhile, the ones that were going to the crypt, they went in there and found Percy's body being resurrected by these cultists, who were all wearing these familiar-looking bird-like masks, only they were carved out of bone. And the party quickly started to dispatch with some of the cultists before a few of them teleported away right as Vox Machina arrived in the crypt, only for Vex to get shot in the chest by the reanimated Percy, and before they teleported away, escaping. So, that was a heck of a way for me to kick off the campaign. I really enjoyed doing that. Long story short, a lot of the places that Percy had done some construction, he had begun to modernize, all that stuff, began to be ransacked or blown up or desecrated. It seemed like someone was after Percy's legacy in particular. Through their investigations, they found out that the cult was worshipping Orthax, Percy's old demon, that they had thought was dispatched with, but somehow still survived. Now, the tricky bit was Percy was also himself being seen at some of these locations, working with black powder, making explosives, things like that, and they finally managed to track Percy down, only to find out that the cult had somehow come into possession of the soul of Anna Ripley and implanted his spirit, her spirit, into his body, and that through various investigations found out that they had essentially yanked Percy's soul out of his body, faked his death in order to pull this off for some strange reason. The adventures continued. They found out more and more about the cult, and they discovered that a part of the jungles of Taldorei were being infected by some sort of undead plague, and that the cult was heading into that area. It turns out there was a horn of Orcus hidden in the Underdark beneath that section of the jungle, and when they went in there, that's when they had their first confrontation with Anna Ripley in Percy's body, and that's when they began to put the pieces together that Orthax is in fact the sundered demon lord Orcus, and that he is trying to regain his power. So, first things first, they made their way across the ocean to the Temple of the Platinum Dragon, where Vox Machina had many years ago sealed away one of the horns that they had found, only to find themselves once again waylaid by Ripley. This time they did manage to get the horn through a lot of hard trials and fights. And this is a campaign lasted over a year and a half, so it's there's a lot going on. But eventually, one of the party members accidentally touched the horn and fused with it during an encounter. The horn bestowed upon them powers, as it is a vestige, and they were able to resist a lot of the things that were going on, but it was permanently fused to their body, and when another party member tried to remove it, it killed that member of the party instantly before it began to fuse to the other party member, and in the process, both of the player characters unfortunately died. That was actually quite funny for me, because order of events, if they was very rapid, because if they had just like stopped for a minute to kind of think about what was going on, they probably could have saved one of them. But order of events did not play out that way. One of them shouted, "Oh, I hold down this player character. Okay, cool. And I'm gonna chop off the arm that's touching the horn." But it had already become a part of their being at that point, and it just killed them instantly when the arm got cut off. But anyway, this is about when the subplot of everything came in, because one of the members of the party was able to see the threads of fate that had been sort of teasered around Exandria and have a lot to do with the Matron of Ravens. And they came in contact with the person who brought them all together in the first place, who was sort of a soothsayer, sage like man who did a lot of like with tarot cards and readings and things like that. And through context clues, was revealed to be one of the gods of Exandria who was presumed dead. It was Vordo, the god of fate. And he had been tasked by the Raven Queen to sort of prove himself still worthy of guiding the people of Exandria and utilizing the threads as he had done so prior. And in order to prove that he was worthy, he had to guide 3 different groups of adventurers to prevent the coming calamities of the realm. So he had guided Vox Machina and the Mighty Nine, and this was the final group that he needed to guide in order to reclaim his domain. But in his weakened state, could not do much. Eventually, everything came to a head when Orthax regained his physical form and became Orcus once more, with the recovery of one of his horns and the Wand of Orcus. And in that fight, the party drastically underestimated what was happening. They were trying to run away, and Vordo had to sacrifice himself in order to aid in their escape, and thus granting Orcus access to the threads of fate, and began to plunge Exandria into a darkness, a plague of undeath, and lots of other nasty things. The party began to work with Vox Machina to try and figure out ways to mitigate what was happening, and in doing so, the party went off on their investigations, and when they split from Vox Machina, they were traveling to Amon, where Orcus had set up shop, and they were going to try and confront him to handle things themselves. It didn't work. Orcus managed to corrupt all of Vox Machina and send them across the continent, and the party had to hunt down Vox Machina one by one and defeat them to set them free. The last of which was Scanlan Shorthalt, who had true polymorphed himself into a storm giant and became this massive purple storm over Whitestone, and they had overrun it with a vampiric clan who was corrupting the people of Whitestone into vampires, and was having them create various firearms and all these kinds of things. And that fight was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really funny for me. Scanlan put up a good fight, but after he was defeated, they had to deal with the vampires. And I remember they walked into Whitestone, near the center of it, and one of them asks me, "Can we see what looks to be the most important looking vampire here?" And I did this epic description of they spot one on top of a chimney, sort of doing a Batman thing, this like cloak billowing in the breeze, and he turned to give this epic monologue, and every single person at the table goes, "No, we open fire." Excuse me. "No, we open fire." And they just light this guy up with all of their max level spells. It was like the opening to RoboCop, just and sure enough, they did enough damage to kill the guy. And because one of them cast Daylight, he could not retreat to his coffin and was just disintegrated on the spot. And you know, there are moments when you're running a game as a dungeon master, and where everything goes in such a way that's it's so funny. They're having so much fun. You just have to let it slide and just say, "Yep, no, you guys got him." And they managed to kill the master vampire and free the people of Whitestone once again. It was after this, and after they restored Scanlan to Vox Machina, that they decided to go on to the final battle. And they managed to do it. They managed to succeed despite all odds. They decided that since Orcus has the threads, they cannot make a plan to go against him, because, you know, if he can see fate and you make a plan, he's immediately just going to know the plan. So they commandeered one of the airships of Exandria and decided to just crash it into the castle of Amon and said, "Hey, we ball." And they did the final battle. It was pretty epic. I had put stuff sort of in that fight to make it easier. And I had alluded to, oh, you can see the threads now. Everyone can see them. They're visible to the naked eye. You notice that he seems to know what's happening before you do it, and this, that, and the other. And none of them thought to try and remove the threads by any means. They just tanked their way through the fight. I managed to power word kill their barbarian. I went after their cleric and just kept curb stomping him whenever I got the chance. It was a good fight. I had a lot of fun. I did decide to do it in 3 stages. So they had a slightly nerfed Orcus because they did manage to keep one of his horns away from him. And so he only had 1 horn, the wand, and the threads. And one of the players got the final hit on the first phase, and the way they described it was they behead him and then split him down the middle, and that essentially disarmed him of his horn, the threads, and the wand of Orcus all in one go. And then it had phase 2 occur, where he resumed sort of a fleshy looking form of that stereotypical Orthax looking visage of the like the raven skull and the shadowy form, but it was like made out of blood. And first thing I tried to do, and I think they could see it on my face, was, okay, I have to get the wand back, I have to get the horn back, I have to get the threads back. And each of them took a turn to make sure that didn't happen. They kicked the wand away, the threads disappeared, and another one tried to destroy the horn. And one of them had a very good idea. He actually succeeded in picking up the wand of Orcus and started using it to destroy one of the horns, which is one of the few ways I had decided was going to do that. It was very clever, very clever. Points for creativity. But they did finally succeed in the fight, And something I tried to do when Orcus was in his death throes was this. They were just bombarding him with radiant damage and all this stuff. So the more they hit him with things, the smaller and smaller that shadowy form got, until it was just this pathetic little crow, just sort of croaking and trying to get away on the floor. And it had this sad piano music playing with violins and all this stuff. And one of them approached it. He was a Shadar Kai. And if you don't know, Shadar Kai served the Raven Queen. And he goes over and he picks up the little crow and holds it. And he said to it, "I think it's time you and my mother had a..." What did he say? "I think it's time I return you to my mother." And he just... and it just faded away into nothing. And, yeah, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. There was so much that happened. But I haven't talked to my players to make sure they were good with me delving into character stuff yet. But, I learned a lot of lessons in this campaign, because a lot of things kind of got out of hand at certain points. There was player drama, there was issues with myself personally as DM, and all kinds of things. But a big lesson that I took away from this campaign was that it is okay to say no to your players sometimes. And I'm not saying, like, "Can I have a bag of holding?" No. I'm saying, like, if your players are insistent on changing their subclass like 3 or 4 times, maybe not do that. If your players aren't happy with a character, try to convince them to find a good narrative way to make that happen, so that way they can change them out, and know when to tell them, "Hey, there's only like 3 sessions left in the campaign. Can you just try to make it work with this guy until we're done?" Stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of times throughout this campaign where I would walk away not feeling like I had done my best. And there's not a DM on the planet who doesn't feel like that sometimes, but it was a lot this go around. But there were lessons learned, and all I can do is take the lessons and go forward and try and do better in future campaigns. Because there was just a lot. And not all of it was my fault, but things happen. Anyway, that got depressing. So, if I ever go back to Exandria, I will be doing things drastically differently. I might not even have Vox Machina be alive at this point, if I ever go back, just so that way I don't have to deal with them at all. I thought it'd be fun to have sort of Easter eggs here and there, things like that, but it got way out of hand. Although they did have fun interacting with Grog, which was very fun to DM. I was very nervous about playing as a character of Vox Machina, because there's a lot of rich history there, and I wasn't sure if I would do any of the characters justice, but I think I did okay. But yeah, just gotta look forward to the future ones. Anyway, I hope you guys have an excellent day. May all your games be fruitful, and don't be afraid to tell your players no if you need to. If it's really going to mess with what you've got going on, you're perfectly fine as Dungeon Master to tell them, "Hey, this isn't going to work. Let's try and come up with something else together." But yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and yeah, see ya.